This is Dennis Raimondi with the Coffee League. You find us at thecoffeeleague.com. My guest today is Ms. Aimee Tarte. She is the founder and owner of the Cafe Lady in the Mug in Florida. What town are you in, Aimee?
We are in Broward County.
Broward County. And I want to say that how I connected with Aimee was my wife and I, we visit a lot of cafes, sometimes three or four in a day. And I was we were in Florida and in Miami, in Sarasota, Delray Beach, Boca Raton, that area. And I was talking to a barista I really liked in one of the cafes. I think it was in Boca Raton. And I said, "Is there any other new places I wouldn't have heard of that you might recommend?" So he had heard from other baristas, "Hey, this place, Lady in the Mug, was really good, and that I should check it out if I get a chance." It's a little out of the way, but I found it and I went there. And I must say, I like I said, I go to dozens of cafes in a month, and every once in a while, a place just strikes me as having not only good specialty coffee, which Lady in the Mug has, but also a special atmosphere and feeling there, and culture, coffee culture, and that's usually generated by the person or persons running it. And in this case, Aimee was there at the store, and I was very impressed with the enthusiasm and passion you approached your work with. So I thought it'd be great to talk to you and give other people, especially anybody out there that's thinking of starting a cafe, let them know about your story a bit. So thanks for coming on and talking with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to speak with you and everyone else.
Well, okay, let's start. I read that you made this decision to drop everything else and start a cafe, but you wanted to be well educated, so you went out to Portland, Oregon, a great coffee culture, to learn your craft. Tell us about that. What preceded your getting into the coffee business, and what were your feelings getting into it?
Sure. So I actually started as a middle school teacher for 5 years. And unfortunately, I got pretty sick, and my doctor put me on FMLA leave, and I had to leave teaching. So I knew that I loved people, and I wanted to do something along the lines of just making people happy and doing what I could. So all of a sudden, I kept getting this idea for a coffee shop, and I knew nothing about coffee, like you mentioned. So I wanted to educate myself so that I was ready and I could do the best job that I possibly could. And that meant to do my due diligence. And when I started researching, I found the America Barista and Coffee School in Portland, Oregon. So I flew myself out there and I went for a couple of weeks. And I cannot explain to you how much I learned through this program.
Wow.
I would not be successful if I did not go through this
Well,
program.
well, let me ask you
We,
a couple of
yeah,
questions, Aimee. So you had this thought when you were teaching school and you had to leave and you were looking for something else to do that you wanted to start a cafe, a coffee shop. Was that because you were a consumer of coffee yourself and you loved coffee, or did it just look like a fun thing to do, or what was it that you think gave you the feeling or desire to open a cafe?
well, what's funny, I like coffee. I'm not a coffee connoisseur by any means. I wasn't even drinking it every day, but I felt like it was a great way. It was kind of like a great excuse to use giving people coffee to really make a difference and make people happy and give them good quality coffee and get to know them and their families. And it just builds relationships and kind of brings communities together. And it's a good excuse to use your business to give back as well, which
Wow.
is something I model. It's like a business with soul. So it's a great opportunity to do more than just give coffee.
Well, I think you've articulated one of the. I also love coffee itself, but it's the culture that surrounds it. It's a little different in every country that I've been in, but the qualities that you're talking about are the qualities that I find internationally, and what attract me, and I think a lot of other people to coffee. So you go out to Portland, Oregon. Had you been out there before?
No, I had never been to the West Coast, so it was all
Wow.
new for me.
So what was it like going out there and experiencing Portland and the school where you studied?
So it was really cool. We had school all day. It was bright and early to 5 or 6 p.m. And then after that, we would go out and visit local coffee shops. So it was an all-day thing for a couple of weeks. And it was about 3 weeks long. And we learned everything from how to pick a good location to how far your grinders should be from your espresso machine and the importance of ergonomics, to things that I would have never thought of myself. I wouldn't have been able to Google these things. These were experts that had helped many people build many coffee shops successfully. They knew what to look for and what will make or break a coffee shop. So I learned everything.
So you go out there, and what were you went out there with the intention of not only opening a shop, but you wanted to learn how to be a barista, roaster. What aspects of the business did you want to learn yourself?
I wanted to learn everything. I think it's important to be well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I enrolled in all 4 of their programs, and I received 4 coffee certifications, 1 in coffee business, 1 in coffee roasting, 1 in barista training, and then 1 in, what's the other one? Coffee business, roasting, barista training, and cupping. Which is
okay.
Which is also a very elaborate thing that you have to learn with different origins of coffee and that whole thing. So I got cupping, roasting, barista training, and barista business.
Which was the most difficult for you?
I think the roasting was more difficult for me because I don't want to be a roaster. That's not
Right.
kind of the direction I'd like to go in, but it's so scientific and precise, and one little altercation could really affect the bean and the roast. So I think that was a little bit more complex. So it was a little bit more difficult for me to grasp.
All right, and I think also they say, and I'm generalizing now, often baristas are the people that like to be out front, interacting, speaking with, engaging other people, whereas a roaster sometimes, like a certain type of chef, likes to be quiet in the background, not so much interacting. And it seems like your personality, like mine, is more extroverted. More enjoyment and energy comes from engaging directly with people. Is that right?
Oh, yes, I would definitely agree. And a lot of roasters don't even have a storefront. They do roasting in their warehouse or wherever their location facility is. So you're absolutely right. So a lot of roasters do prefer to be behind the scenes.
Did you have any idea before you went to school out in Portland that the coffee business involved so much? It was so intricate. There was so many details involved.
I had no idea what I got myself into. It is so intricate. I actually brought a clear notebook to take notes, and I filled the entire notebook and had to go purchase another one. It was so much information. It was so scientific and so precise, and I didn't realize how important consistency is. So I just took down as many notes as I could. I wanted to learn everything the right way.
And Amy, did your classmates, the other people that were studying with you, did they come in with more? Were some of them baristas already or roasters already who worked in the coffee business, or were they all like just coming in cold like you did?
What was kind of interesting, so there were people from all over the world, different countries. It was really interesting. There was about 30 of us. And by the end of it, some of them worked at coffee shops. There were a couple of baristas that had a little bit of knowledge, but most of them were just people that wanted to get into the coffee business. And actually, by the end of it, a lot of them decided they did not want to do it.
Oh, really? What were some of the reasons they didn't want to do it?
Well, I think it sounds simple enough. You open a coffee shop, you get some coffee, make people happy, you talk to them, but there's so many facets that I don't think any of us thought of that were brought to the forefront of the details and the precision and the just everything that goes into it, that a lot of people figured out that it just wasn't for them because it wasn't what they thought it was going to be.
Wow. And when you're out there and you're studying, you mentioned part of the day, I believe you would go and visit cafes. And Portland's an amazing coffee town. Do you remember some of the cafes that you visited and what your experiences might have been like at those cafes?
Yeah, it was super cool. I tried to visit all of them. And I
Hmm.
would try to speak to everyone from a barista to like just a floater that's cleaning to owners. So I tried to speak to as many people on different levels as I could to learn as much as I could. So I went to Heart Roasters, which is big up there. They have a couple locations. That was very clean, very woodsy and natural. And then I went to a couple of different ones, Stumptown
Mm-hmm.
But there were some modern looking ones. There was one, I can't remember the name, but they had spent $2 million in decor. So I was speaking to their owner, and he just wanted a very minimalistic, sleek approach. So it was really different that each one had its own style and character to it, which really works because they're on every corner. So you have to make them different from one another. And I thought that was very unique that Portland was able to have so many coffee shops and be so concentrated, but each of them have its own thing.
Did you have a favorite?
I really enjoyed Kova. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that they did a great job. They have a very minimalistic menu. I think there's 4 or 5 items, and that's it, period. So I really like that, and I took from that to go to my coffee shop. I didn't want there to be 55 options. I wanted to keep it very traditional, very simple. So I really liked their layout and the simplicity.
All right. Yeah, it's interesting. I had Kenneth Nye on my show recently, and he's the owner of 9th Street Espresso in New York. And actually, I believe he was the first specialty coffee shop in New York, and he prides himself in having only 4 or 5 items on his menu: hot coffee, cold coffee, coffee with milk, and I think there's one other item, espresso, and that's it. And
Yeah.
so he's really simplified it, and to varying degrees. And I think he also will make a mocha. But so you come back then from taking this course, get a tremendous amount of information, tremendous amount of knowledge. You come back from Portland to Florida. What do you do?
So at that point, now I feel prepared with the knowledge that I need. I'm very confident at this point. And now I'm looking for locations. I know exactly what to look for at this point. I know how to negotiate a lease. I know how to find an agent, and I knew my terms.
What were
So
you
I
looking
felt like I was
for
fully
when,
strapped.
when you said you knew what to look for? What was it that you were looking for?
So in school, we learned that bigger isn't better. Just because you have an 1,800 square foot coffee shop doesn't mean you're going to make more profit. That
Hmm.
means people are going to sit there for longer, pretty much. So they taught us you want to look for something 1,400 square feet and under. So I already had been able to narrow out a couple of the ones that I thought might be a good idea, but they were just too big. So
Hmm.
that was helpful. Also, storefront locations visible from the street, especially where I'm located in Broward County. There's a lot of sunken, big, long strip plazas, and you can get lost if there's too many businesses. You can get lost if there's too many trees, if it's too hidden from the street. So there's only that narrows it down right there. So those were two key elements: street view and size.
And then when and what about equipment? How did you decide what equipment to get?
After I got back from school, I knew exactly what I wanted because at school we were able to use different grinders and different espresso machines and kind of decide which one would be a good fit. And I already knew when I got back exactly what equipment I needed and how many different pitchers I needed, thermometers. I knew I literally had the count because that's what they taught us, everything. I felt I had the equipment specs. I knew exactly what I wanted, and it was just time to order.
You use a La Marzocco Linea, is that right?
Yep, the La Marzocco Linea AV with 2 group heads.
Nice. I had the gentleman that's the uh, president of La Marzocco for the United States, John Montagna, I think his name. He was on the show recently, also a wonderful guy. And there are a lot of tremendous machines made by different companies, but I certainly see a lot of their product, and I always ask, how do you like it? How and almost always people are very, very happy with it. Okay, and then how did you go about hiring people? Did you start off by yourself? How many people did you initially hire?
I think that's definitely the toughest part of it because you want people that mirror your values and your
Hmm.
drive and your culture that you're trying to create for Lady in the Mug. So at first, I hired 10 people. And for the first 6 weeks, I worked open to close. We open at 7 a.m. and we close at 9 p.m. And I was doing it all. So it would be me and 1 or 2 other people at first. And then as soon as I felt that they were properly trained and kind of understood how I wanted things to run, I would allow them to kind of ease into it a little bit. I didn't want to just throw them into anything unprepared. We started training weeks before we even opened our doors.
Uh-huh. Hey, just a clarification. It's Joe Monahan, Monaghan. Great guy. Listen to the interview and his whole of getting involved in that level that area of the business and that type of equipment. So you come in, you're working day and night. Are you starting to think again that, hey, what did I get myself into, or are you really enjoying it?
I think when you are going to start your own business, especially like I did without a partner or an
Hmm.
investor or anything like that, I knew what I was getting myself into and I believed in it. I think you have to believe in what you're doing or you're going to wear yourself out and not even want to do it anymore. So I kind of knew, obviously I got tired, but I was seeing so many people happy and I was seeing the reviews and I was hearing the feedback and it gave me more energy to keep going.
Right. One thing that I heard recently from Scott Carey, who's the founder of Sump Coffee, SUMP Coffee in St. Louis, he said that if you're going to go into this business and open a cafe, have a year's worth of working cash to get you through the first year. Did you find that yourself? Also, was it necessary for you to, figure it's going to take so many months before we start making some money on this?
That's really funny because I originally said I only need this much. And then when I got back from school, they were like, you need at least a year
Right.
working capital. And I said, but they were like, no, listen to us. You really do. And I am so glad that I put that into my loan request because it's so true. There's so many things. You could be making money and your business can be doing very well. We doubled what my projection was for month one, which is great, but you don't see all the costs in getting started up, and then you don't realize you need this, you need to purchase that, and things just come up. It's life, and you can't prepare for everything. So that money is crucial, especially in the first year.
Right. And then I have to ask, how did you come up with the name Lady and the Mug?
I kept thinking about it, and I didn't want to be cliche with, the word brew or
Hmm.
drip or, the cliche coffee terms. So I kept thinking, and then I was thinking of Lady in the Tramp for some reason. And
Right.
then I just said, how about I'm a lady and Lady in the Mug? And now it's an ongoing joke when people say, who's the lady? When they come in, I say, I'm the lady and they're my mugs. And I point to whoever's working with me. So it's like a joke now, but that's where I got it.
Right. And I must say, a lot of people say to me, "Hey, go visit this cafe or that cafe." And I did remember Lady in the Mug. Some other ones, especially like you said, if it's brew is in it and all, I get them all mixed up because the names are similar. This was definitely
Yeah.
was definitely different. One area I'm curious about and how you deal with it is when I went to your cafe, and again, if you're in the area down in Florida, and I'll have you give the exact address. Um, it's a really neat place because it's great coffee, well prepared, good baristas, but also I'm big into coffee culture, and it's a nice feeling, and it's a welcoming family feeling, and there's energy in it, and it's special and unique. And with many places like this, but like I said before, every once in a while, the place really jumps out at me, and it did. One of the things that's an issue is I go to cafes, and if I go in and a particular barista is working, then I know I'm going to get a good cup of coffee or espresso or whatever I'm getting, a latte. But some of the other people are not as good. They'll burn the milk. They're not as well trained as baristas. Do you have a systematic way of training all your baristas so there's consistency from barista to barista?
Absolutely. I think that is such an overlooked thing. We just throw people in there
Right.
after a little bit of training and assume that they're ready to go. I take everything I learned from how they taught me at coffee school and I train everyone the exact same way. It's repetition, and I try to let them know consistency is essential. If you notice a shot didn't pull correctly, you do not give it to someone. You make sure that you correct it. I show them how to correct the grind. It's all about education. If the grind is too coarse, you're going to have too much water running through your grinds. You might get a little bit too much. So I teach them how to adjust the grind, what to look for. If it looks off, they're able to know that. And then on top of that, it's all about consistency. Is the cup preheated? Are you putting the same amount of syrup that everyone else is doing? We always do 2 pumps. That's straight across the board, so it's always consistent. And then with milk, that's the toughest aspect. So we go over milk steaming for a long period of time before you ever get a shift as a barista. And it
Right.
has to start being consistent and not, hey, you had good milk this time, so now you're ready. It
Right.
has to be consistent over time. It has to be to a certain temperature. We make them use thermometers. Their aeration has to be for a certain amount of time. Your milk has to look like wet paint, very smooth, no bubbles. So it's all about teaching the correct way to every single person. It takes time. It's repetitive, but it's important. It's essential.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you said this. And anybody listening that's thinking of opening a cafe, really make a note of this because, again, as a person that goes to, dozens of cafes every month, the one thing I'm noticing is that there's a lot of places that don't put enough time into training the baristas, or they'll hire somebody that works somewhere else and they have a 2 years experience, but that doesn't mean they're good at it. And each barista in any shop should be consistent in how they do and present things and whatnot. So to really, as Aimee is recommending, put the time into to putting these systems down. And I noticed some of the bigger places like Blue Bottle, like Panther, down in Florida, they have a very extensive training program. But I think regardless of the size of the shop, the cafe, they should have that. What parts of the business do you enjoy least?
You know, I love people. I'm there to make you happy, give you great quality. I don't like the business stuff, but I know it's very important. So I keep Excel
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheets on every single thing I buy. I do the accounting. I do all of that. So I don't really enjoy the ordering and the scheduling and all that like business stuff that actually you have to do. But, it's part of it. I want to do it. I do everything myself. I'd rather do it that way if I can. And if I don't know how to do something, I learn. I think a lot of people try to outsource a lot of the things they do for their shop on the business side, and it kind
Mm-hmm.
of messes them up. So I do everything myself. If I don't know how to do it, I learn. But I mean, I'm not a numbers kind of gal, but I
Right.
do it. It's
Right. You
part
do
of
what you
it.
have to do. All right. And then what beans do you use, and how did you decide what beans to source? What beans to use? Because there's a lot out there now.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of roasters. What was important for me was consistency with the beans. And so I met with a couple roasters down here in South Florida, and we use Perla out of Miami. They're a specialty
Perla,
roaster.
Perla. Yeah.
Yep, PER''LA. They're
Mm-hmm.
great out of Miami. It's two guys from the University of Miami. They have been friends. One does their marketing, and it's one that does the roasting, which I love. So it's the same two guys roasting consistently. The beans always come out the same way. There's no variations. They actually just won an award. They're the only roaster in the Southeast United States that won the award out of California, the Good Food Awards for their Ethiopian
Mm-hmm.
beans. So we're really proud of them. They win awards all the time, and it's high quality. And we have people every day that say, this is the best coffee I've ever had. So I believe in it. When I give people a cup of coffee, I know I stand behind the quality, and I'm confident.
Great. And then what is your coffee consumption habits on a daily basis?
I'm a plain black coffee kind of gal. I
Uh-huh.
like Americanos. I like our drip, dark roast.
Mm-hmm.
I, I, I'm kind of plain. I don't like a lot of milk. I don't do the dairy. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
plain. I like to taste the bean. I like a good double espresso. So
Great. And what other advice, if people listening in now, and I'm sure there are people listening in that are thinking, maybe I would open a cafe someday. Maybe that's what I really want to do. What advice would you give them? Is there other advice you would give them?
I think do it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, profit margin for coffee shops is not as high as people expect.
Right.
Do it because you genuinely care about quality. Do it the right way. Do your research. Educate yourself. Don't just try to wing it. I think people try to do it all themselves and don't want to humble themselves a little bit and do some research and education.
Right.
And always stay true to your values and the culture you want to create.
Right.
Stay true to what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Are there people in the industry that you have had as mentors or look to for inspiration, or say, hey, I want to approach coffee with the same skill level and dedication that they do?
I kind of always just had my own vision, and
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to use my shop to give back to our community.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of events. The coffee is the product, but our
Right.
soul is to give back.
Right.
So that is kind of like our mission. And I think we're kind of trend setting on that. We're kind of going a different path that some people may not agree with, but it's
Mm-hmm.
all about giving back for us and being a part of something bigger than coffee.
That's great. And where do you see Lady in the Mug being in 4 or 5 years? Would you open up other locations? What sorts of goals do you have?
What's funny is at first, within the first couple of months, people said, you should get another one. I said, you guys are insane. You know how hard I'm working? This is
Right.
a lot of work. But now, I see the people that come in every day and love to hang out with us, and we love them. I want to do that more. So I would love to open another location, but never franchise. I want to stay very unique and individual. And I would like another location or two, reach more people, do more good.
Great. Well, I just want to say I've been to Lady in the Mug. It was a great experience. I look forward to going back there when I'm in Florida. I don't think twice about driving a half hour, an hour out of my way to go to a good cafe. It's a big part of my every day. I'll drink a couple of cups at home, but then always try to get to a cafe every day and have that experience. And give us your exact location.
Sure. So we're in Coral Springs, Florida, and it's 3111 North University Drive in Coral Springs, Florida, 33065. We hope to
We'll,
see everybody. Come out
yeah,
and visit.
we'll have that posted up. Thank you so very much, Aimee, for your time, and wishing you all the best of luck in your business.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thank you.